Being Your Best You with Dr. Kier Adept and Dr. Kevin Richardson. Have you ever had a day, an hour, a moment when you knew exactly who you are, in the right place, and knowing what you need to do? Would you like to feel the power and presence of being you at your best all the time? Almost all problems around health, wealth, relationships, and purpose can be solved when you are restored to you. And Dr. Kier and Dr. Kevin are here to show you how. Dr. Kier uses Geotran human programming, human design, and activations to quickly and easily release you from the automatic patterns and inner glitches that block your healthy, wealthy, happy life. Dr. Kevin is a clinical hypnotherapist with decades of experience in releasing the subconscious fears, beliefs, and habits that cause or contribute to experiences you no longer wish to have. Dr. Kevin specializes in releasing obesity and your blocks to success. Dr. Kier and Dr. Kevin are both passionate about helping people improve their lives in person, by phone, or on Zoom. Yes, it's as easy to change your life long distance as it is in person. So, join the paradox as Dr. Kier and Dr. Kevin discuss their different approaches to clearing your subconscious and restoring you to you with speed, efficiency, and a sense of humor. It's time for Being Your Best You with Dr. Kier and Dr. Kevin. The Paradox. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
and here we are.
This is Dr. Kier Adept. I am an expert in my own form of magic. That would be miracles, integrations, Geotran, activations. No, wait, it's the other way around. Miracles, activations, Geotran, integrations, creativity. Woohoo! And you can find me all over Facebook. Now, and let me introduce.
I'm Dr. Kevin Richardson. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and this is the hypnotherapy cat. She has awoken from her nap. So she'll be joining us also. And it's just wonderful to be back again.
Mm-hmm. So we were actually talking just before this taping about a kind of trifecta of issues that really, and I was thinking about it just as we were setting up, how this relates to our theme here, which is being your best you, obviously. So what we'd like to talk about today is safety, trust, and visibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think we're going to come at it maybe from a slightly different direction from the way some people might. Also, in Geotran and even in my activations, we don't really have any specific corrections for safety, trust, or visibility. What we would look at, if I'm working with someone either in a group or individually, is we would say, well, what is affecting your ability to feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
Is it your issue? Is it somebody else's issue? If it's somebody else's issue, we would go back to wherever that came into your life and fix it back there. But in terms of how we were discussing it in between shows, it was really much more about social programming. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of challenging to single-handedly change the social program. I think you would agree with me there.
It is.
So what I'd love, if it's okay with you, Dr. Kevin, is I'd like to just give a little bit of background of where we were coming from, at least in our discussion off camera.
That would be great. Go for
Okay.
it.
Probably most of you don't know that I was actually an architect by training. That's my professional qualification. Well, I mean, I've been doing what I do for the last 25 years, and I have a doctorate and all that good stuff. But in terms of going to university and learning how to do something, architecture. And I was in the UK. I trained as an architect at Hull School of Architecture in the UK. And Hull, out of the 36 schools of architecture in the UK, Hull was noted for social awareness and that they were very welcoming to women students. They specifically, they went out of their way to bring in women students. There were a whole 10% of us.
Wow.
And this was the school that was actually attempting to attract the women students. At that time, now this was in 1985 when I started at university. I was 28 at the time. The registered architects in the UK was 5% women. So it was an improvement that in our school, but oh my word, I mean, I was very alert to these issues anyway, because I was not 18. Do you see? I mean, I'd had some life experience, and we were in the middle of the women's movement, and I was constantly, getting in the face of the administration and the faculty. Say, now wait a minute here. When I started out in architecture school, I don't think we had any women professors at that time, and certainly most of the architecture schools were all male faculty. We had women like receptionists and admin people, and by the time I got through the graduate school portion, we had 2 women professors. So things were improving, but the sheer ingrained, absolutely normalized picture of where women fit into architecture was very obvious, especially if you were on the receiving end of it. When I was in my year out, so here's how it works in a British architecture school. It's different in the US, and there are more women architects in the US, and there are more women architecture students in the US, and that's great. But I can only go by my own experience. So we had 3 years for the undergraduate degree, which would be a 4-year degree here. And then you go out into practice for a year, where you kind of unlearn a whole bunch of stuff. And then you come back and you do a 2-year diploma, it's called. So you have part 1, 3 years, year in practice, and you can't come back and do your part 2 until you've done that year in practice. So it's like an important part of the system.
Yeah.
Now, I never had a bad time on a building site. I will say that. However, my women colleagues certainly did. I mean, I think anybody I guess I was 30 by the time I was on a building site, and anybody looking at me knew that I was going to take no shit from nobody. So I was never offered any,
Yeah.
But what actually got us talking about this earlier was the fact that even though I moved on and I started learning Geotran, and which is mainly women, it's about 80% women because we're the processors. Yeah. Even so, I'm still in a society where women are not safe, where women are not visible. And sometimes we depend on that invisibility in order to feel safe. And the reason this came up is in our last show, we were talking about stress. And a big factor in whether you feel stressed or not is whether you can trust your environment. Stress actually is the fact that you cannot trust your environment, you cannot trust the people around you. And I was saying to Dr. Kevin during our break that I had years and years, decades really, of being in a situation where there were basically 3 approaches that would work. I could be one of the boys. I mean, and I like men, but really.
Yeah.
I could be gender neutral, which is actually the route that I took. So I was wearing solid silk shirts and Rohan trousers, and of course you had to wear kind of work boots if you were on site anyway, and you have to have your hair in such a way that it'll fit under a high wall. So, or you can go ultra feminine, which is what the landscape architect in my particular firm did, which I was actually equally uncomfortable with. So gender neutral seemed like the best choice. And now I'm in my 60s, and even though I live in a university town when I'm in the US, women over 40 are basically invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also true in France. Women over 40 are basically invisible. And I just came to this conclusion just this week, as I was saying to you, Dr. Kevin. I am so tired of that. I am so tired of gender neutral. I am so tired of invisible. I'm so tired. I mean, here I am, this absolutely, ravishing vision of divine femininity especially on a dragon scale.
Yes.
These dragons all the time. I say all this stuff to the dragons, and they look at me and say, well, we don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Dragons are really pretty hard to ignore. And they don't really get the polarity thing either, because that's not, it's not their experience, which is fine. But I just thought, what is it that really has that kind of impact on us as women in what is, despite very welcome changes, not saying things haven't changed, they have changed, but especially in the US and some of the political extremism that's going on, it's like that I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Even in our little town here, which, I seriously, I can feel I can walk around at night. I don't have a problem with that. Same thing in Vichy. I was talking this over with my friend in Vichy, who insists on walking me home. We live about 20 minutes apart, which I really like. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love it. I'd love it that he insists on walking me home or driving me home or whatever the case may be. And I said to him, well, Vichy's pretty well lit up. It's a nice little middle-class town. I can't imagine anybody would attack me. And he looked at me and said, well, I've been attacked twice. And I thought,
wow.
Anybody who looks at this man it's 59, 60, he's going to be 60 this year, who used to be in the Foreign Legion, and thinks that that's going to be somebody to attack in the street is seriously deluded.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't inquire too closely about how these attackers ended up, but I can well believe with broken bones, because he's also somebody who is not going to take crap from anybody.
Right.
It's one of the reasons I like him. So we were having this discussion about what is it that allows us to trust our environment, therefore be under less stress? What is it allows us to feel safe? In my case, as a woman in what is still a male-dominated society, but I also get this from my LGBTQ friends, who are feeling less and less safe with the homophobia kind of ramping up. And then where our discussion went, as you know, Dr. Kevin, and I'm going to just hand it over to you now, is that you actually had an equivalent learning experience from your professional life.
I did. I was trained as an occupational therapist. And when I entered the field, there was only 3% male.
Yeah.
And 97% female. And so when I started working in the hospitals, we had to negotiate what uniform I was going to wear. Because the uniform was a white blouse with navy blue culottes.
Well, I'm sure you would have looked very fetching.
Yeah. but a little too airy for me. And so we had to agree in writing that I would wear navy blue pants. No big deal. But it took the hospital months to change the dress code, because they were like going, all of our occupational therapists are women. So it was very common for me to work in an all-woman department. And I gained so much respect for women and how women were just put down and dominated over. But it also gave me a new, I guess the greatest compliment that I got from a department was that, well, Kevin, you think like a woman. And I kind of had to step back a couple of minutes and go, that's a compliment.
It really is. But I can see how it might not feel like it at first.
At first it was like, oh, really? Oh, okay, get it. I got it.
It's like reading Victorian and Edwardian novels where a professional man says, oh, well, so-and-so almost has a masculine mind, meaning a woman.
Yeah.
It's like as if we're supposed to take that as a compliment. Yeah. You definitely got squeaky face around that.
Yeah, we do. And I had to learn to be able to just know my place in the department. And it was at the bottom of the table.
Now, that's interesting, because what that brings up for me, and my situation was different, but it was similar too. Yeah. In architecture school and in any architectural practice I've ever been in, the majority have been men, and the vast majority in most cases. And yet, at architecture school, guess who ran all the school meetings?
Voila.
Guess who ran the external lecture program?
Moi.
So, despite this, I stepped into a leadership position. And it was really interesting to see the ripples that caused among the faculty, among my fellow students. And everybody in my year, especially, I was just starting out, pretty much everybody in my year was 18 with zero life experience.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, they could accept the kind of, you do what your mom says or older sister says, whatever. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's like, what is she even doing here?
Well, and when I applied for OT school, you had to apply. And it's a 5-year program. Mm-hmm. And my advisor, who was the head of the American Occupational Therapy Association, which is our national organization at the time, said to me, men have no business being an OT.
Where have I heard a similar opinion expressed in architecture?
And it's like, excuse me?
Exactly.
And she was like, you have no business being here.
It never even occurred to me to apply to architecture school until I worked for an architect for a year. And I was way better at computer stuff, because that's what I'd grown up with, than he was. And actually I was way better at meetings than he was. So I would go with him with meetings and I would do whatever it was that he wanted me to do. And I don't know, after about 6 months of this, I thought, wait a minute, I could do all this. I could do all this. I'm already a designer because I had run my own textiles workshop before then. And because I was, alert and aware and determined for women to have a more visible presence in the professions. If I just consulted my own skills and talents, I would probably have gone for interior decorating, because the engineering side doesn't really interest me that much. in architecture, but God damn it, there weren't enough women architects. So I was going to go, full steam ahead into
Ah,
this architectural thing, because once I got this picture of, because I had never seen a woman architect. I'd never seen a model that this is something women could do. I mean, there were professional women in my family,
yeah.
but they were all like, teachers, nurses, secretaries,
Right.
right? And my mother actually taught typing and business machines in secretarial practice.
Oh my God.
She was told the teacher is a secretary.
Ah,
So
ah,
my keyboard skills are outstanding for someone of my age. And two of my parents were computer programmers. So it's like, computer age, bring it on.
yeah.
So
Oh my
I'm teaching these 18-year-old squits in first year why they have to learn how to use a word processor.
Well, yeah, because that's what you're going to be using out in the field.
And any architectural practice I went into, I would be the ones forming the liaison with the admin staff, because I knew how to use the computers better than they did. Anyway, that's just a little side thing about. So there you were.
That brings up the point that in order for me to be accepted as an OT, I had to work harder and I had to study harder.
Can't imagine what that feels like.
And I had to learn so much more than what the females had to.
Well, that was definitely the case in architecture school as a woman, as one of the few women, as a handful of women.
Yeah. And fortunately now more men have gone into the field.
Yeah.
And really it's like 40-60 now, something like that. Yeah.
It's probably like that, and certainly in the US in architecture school. I mean, I know other women architects here, and I'm not really au fait with what the situation is now in the UK, and I have no idea in France, and I really ought to look that up and see what the deal is. But I do know in France that in general, if there are women in the field, it's as what they call an interior architect, which we would call interior designer. Yeah.
And we're talking about trust. And when you're working in a department that you can't trust is safe.
That's stressful. Right there. Right there.
It creates a lot of stress. And so it makes it more difficult for the person that is the outlier.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that person either becomes an outspoken advocate or they withdraw.
And which do you think I went for?
Oh, I knew you weren't invisible. Like I wish this cat was.
So which did you go for?
Invisible.
I can picture that, because you are a little more introverted than I am.
I went invisible. I just tried to disappear in the departments. My last job, I really spoke out. I really did express my thoughts. They weren't well received, but they were needed to be heard. So
I don't know what this background music is. Is this something on your side?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to speak to our lovely, our wonderful producer Angie. Oh, there it goes. Excellent. Okay, so so this whole issue of the kind of balance between safety and visibility, that I think that is really coming back up, and maybe certainly it's always been there for women. And anybody considered a minority, so Black people, gay people, the more public, then the more they are likely to feel like and be treated like a target.
Right.
I saw something on the reels just on Facebook. Yeah. And what struck me was not so much the reel itself as the reactions I was seeing from people in the comments. It was a clip from a film which I have not actually seen, so I may be misunderstanding the context completely. But it was a scene from the film Closer, and it was between Julia Roberts and Clive Owens, who are both excellent actors,
Right.
And they are obviously a married couple. I think she has gone off with somebody else, permanently or temporarily, I'm not sure. He's understandably angry, but he's shouting at her, and she's basically saying, "Don't hit me." And the men responding in the comments are saying, "Well, she cheated on him," and blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying, no, you don't get it, because you didn't grow up in a situation where violence was always a possibility.
Correct.
And to have a man who men are generally bigger than us women. I mean, I'm a fair-sized woman. I'm 5'7", but most men are still taller than I am, and certainly the ones who aren't taller are broader, or stronger.
Yeah.
Physically stronger. And yeah, if a woman shouts at me, I'm okay, because I can deal with that. But if a man shouts at me, there is always the implicit threat of violence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the men who were responding were not getting at all. I mean, they just didn't get it.
They don't see it.
That has to do with, on a slightly different scale, how we, by we, I mean in this context, professional women, comport ourselves in the world. That's where we have that non-choice of one of the boys, gender neutral, ultra feminine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because really we're interacting with society as a whole that does not respect the woman professional, though it's better.
Yeah,
Not in all cases. I get it. But in the professions that are still male dominated, there's still this underlying assumption that as a woman, you shouldn't be there, that you have to be twice as excellent to get half the praise, half the appreciation, which is what you're saying in your situation too, and that it is not safe.
Not at all.
It's just not safe. And how do we deal with that? I mean, and I imagine, I know that it was the same thing for you, maybe not the safety issue exactly, but the visibility issue certainly.
Right.
And then if we look at the way homophobia is ramping up, some people get very agitated at people who are bi or queer or whatever word you want to use. And I'm sitting there thinking, what has it got to do with you? Personally, I'm always thankful that anybody loves anybody. I mean, given this state of
yeah.
Great. Unless somebody is actually actively propositioning you, there's some part of you that can't look them in the eye, smile, acknowledge whatever it is they're offering, and say, no thanks. How does it threaten people? People are acting like as if they're threatened.
Well, yeah.
Whereas
they're having to protect someone. It's like, oh, we have to protect the children, save the children. How that's been going on since time started, I think, and it's really a non-argument.
Well, yeah, because the vast majority of child abuse is especially child sexual abuse, is actually heterosexual and is actually from somebody that the child already knows.
Yeah.
So it's not like some stranger coming out of the wrong toilet,
Yeah, it's coming from a family member, a male family member,
yeah,
who is heterosexual.
Yeah.
So, that's what the whole, and it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
I actually saw another reel, just I think it was just yesterday. Okay. So some white young man is manhandling some blonde young woman who's also white. and it's somewhere like New York. No, it's
Okay.
on the street, and this black gal comes storming down the steps and tells the white guy to leave this woman alone. And he starts mouthing off at her about being black, about don't you have some watermelon to eat, about, I mean, just stupid, misogynist, racist, you name it. Okay, so it's like she doesn't even whistle. She just uses her telepathic summoning powers and basically says, seriously, you're going to have to tell me something. You're going to stand there in the street abusing another woman, telling me stuff that I already know, like the fact that I'm black. Okay, well, here are all my black cousins who are about to come and beat the crap out of you. And there were two groups. I can't quite remember how it was that there were two groups coming in, and both of them were eyeing up this young idiot.
Yeah.
And saying, you are so toast.
Yeah.
There are times when, we like to say, oh, violence solves nothing. Well, hate to tell you this. Yeah. Because here's this gal who doesn't know how to extricate herself from this abusive boyfriend.
Yeah.
So she has the choice of being visible and unsafe, or visible and being relatively safe.
Yeah.
But in neither case, able to trust the situation that she's in. Yeah.
We had neighbors that were a gay couple.
Yeah.
And one of the other neighbors had a new baby.
Yeah.
And so the new father was ignoring the gay couple.
Yeah.
Whereas before they were friendly. And so I overheard the gay couple ask the guy, why are you ignoring us? He said, because I don't want you molesting my child.
Wow.
And I remember one of them putting their hands on their hips and going, it's not your child I'm interested in. It's you I'm interested in. And the poor father just went into a meltdown. He didn't know what to say. He just turned around, put his tail between his legs, and left.
I mean, even things like that. Okay, I'm just going to deconstruct this a tiny little bit, if I can. Okay, now, and obviously I'm talking from my experience and you're talking from your experience, and that's great. That's why we have these conversations. For someone of my age, for me to even come out full force and say to someone, especially somebody younger than I am, I find you very attractive.
Yeah.
I get these bizarro reactions like, I'm not supposed to have desire. I'm not supposed to be forthright with that desire. I'm not supposed to, it makes me more visible. Yeah.
Well, and women are supposed to just be invisible and not express their desires.
Certainly over the age of 40, especially if you live in a university town, it's like, okay, the 20-year-olds get a lot of attention, but
yeah.
I mean, that's what I like about going to tango, which is all people my age, 50s and 60s. And I actually, this was really brought to my attention because one of the guys, and I don't know any of these guys, so it depends on them approaching me. And tango especially is one in which the men absolutely take the lead. And that's very restful when I can relax into that. And normally, as you know, I wear my hair like this, but my viewers may not know that I have hip length hair, which I was wearing in a ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just ridiculously pleased that this tango partner said, oh, I love your hair. I love that you have this silver hair that just. And I said, well, normally I wear it up. And he said, oh, no. So that's an example of being visible but safe.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
because I could trust that situation that I was in.
Yeah.
But cat calls are an example of being visible but not safe.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just probably my guess is that right now, what's going on in the country, in our country, people aren't safe.
No. No. Any group that
And
is considered a minority.
any group that's even a minority is not safe at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just so obvious with just all the violence.
Yeah.
Um, even the children. Good grief! I've I've got 4 cats sitting right next to me.
But the question is, do you feel safe?
No, not when they're holding their forks and knives and going, "Feed me, feed me, feed me." Sorry, got
You were saying.
distracted.
Not feeling safe as
Not feeling
a minority.
as a minority in
Yeah.
America right now. So
Yeah.
that increases stress levels. And so as stress levels increase, we're starting to see symptoms of that just
Yes.
popping up innocently.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And so as a hypnotherapist, we go and help people to feel safe in their environment, feel safe internally.
Yes. So I was actually just asking myself, and just in terms of this context and this conversation, well, what do I know to do for me? And as you know, I've been in France for these last 8 weeks, and it's just been one revelation after another. It's just been really remarkable and fun and a little unnerving. Uh, and one of the big ones for me was, how much do I love my big me? Let me give you context. In the past, I've shown the diagram of the point up pyramid, the point down pyramid, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the point up pyramid, we have the physical, we have the soul level, we have the spirit. Okay, the spirit's already redeemed. The spirit's doing just fine, thank you. But everybody's soul level is just totally clogged with nonsense, one sort and another. Thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires that really have nothing to do with you in your life. Now, that's what we call the little soul in my world. Okay,
Mhm.
but you have the point down pyramid, which has the God physical at the top and the God soul in the middle, and then the God spirit or the Holy Spirit or whatever word you like to use for that,
Yeah.
at the pointy bit. And on a good day, when you're 100% you, in balance and harmony with you, and in balance and harmony with that point down pyramid, they slide together and they form a Star of David. And that is the significance of the Star of David. Is that means, okay, the God of your being and you are walking around hand in hand, and that's how we do our co-creation here.
Oh.
In fact, I think our next program is going to be about co-creation. But okay.
Yeah.
My point is, and I do have one, my point is, that middle thing, point down, is your big soul. Okay, that is the eternal part of you that is temporarily housed in your personality self now. Right?
Mhm.
How much do you love that part of you? How aligned are you with this multidimensional, timeless part of you that
Mhm.
lives and breathes and swims with the God of your being on a daily basis? Because what I found is that when I chose to make that a priority, firstly, it completely cleared a pattern that I've been running pretty much since birth, which is always second, never first. That's like, hang on a minute. I am this, like vast dragon-like, magnificent, divine feminine. Woohoo! And I'm here for a purpose, and damn it, I'm gonna be that.
Go for it.
Yeah, so it enables me to step into that much larger energy. It's not an energy of domination. It's an energy. I can't even describe it, to be honest with you. It's just bigger than our human concepts. But in that energy, I am always safe. In that energy, I have a much clearer understanding of what I can trust and what it is correct not to trust.
Right.
And in that energy, I am more willing to be visible because I have less fear of, firstly, consequences, and secondly, whether I am pleasing or placating everyone around me. Yeah. From that big space, I'm going to call that the dragon space because I don't have a better word for it.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I talk to these 5 dragons every day, and they kind of look at me with my little issues and go, okay, if that's what you want to spend your time thinking about, we have better things for you to think about. All right,
Yeah.
good. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a much bigger perspective. Yeah. And they're not human. So they look at our human stuff.
Right.
It's those people being human again. Okay. So when I stepped into that, I still haven't figured this one out because it's really, really recent for me. But can you imagine what I'm talking about? It's like, well, of course I'm always safe. Of course I'm always me. Of course I'm moving through the now and a continuous now and forever energy. That eternal part is actually here to experience certain things, and those things may not always look positive from our very limited human perspective. Yeah, but they're always stimulating. They're always. I actually am seriously tired of every negative thing being labeled a sort of learning experience, but it is actually true for the most part. We can extract a little, silver lining from it if we have to.
There's always a lesson in there somewhere.
It's like, okay, it's a mixed blessing or it's a blessing in disguise. I want some undisguised blessings. But seriously, when I can be in that, and that is an inherent part of me. That's the part of me that is always wishing to express itself and is constrained by the thoughts, feelings, beliefs in this lower energy. There's nothing wrong with being human. Being human is great. But all of this accretion, these acquired beliefs and contaminations and expectations that put people into little boxes. And in that little box, you cannot have excellence. You can only have mediocrity. But this big soul is always excellent in the same way that the spirit, the pointy up bit, is always redeemed. It's already redeemed. That's the part that God looks at and says, oh, look at that Kier. Look at her go. Woo! Look at that Kevin. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So that's the only place I can go with this discussion, really, is, is there something we can do about this whole issue of safety, trust, visibility? Is to actually be openly vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's
to recognize and being able to recognize when you are safe, and to recognize when you're in a safe you're safe among the people, and also recognize when you're not.
And it's also kind of, what is the context here? Because you can be small but safe, which is kind of, if I'm hearing you correctly, kind of the direction you went in.
Yeah.
When you were training, when you were an OT. There's big and safe, which is kind of the direction that I went in. It's like, in architecture school, you want to take me on? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this expansive safe, contracting safe. But in terms of the entire how to deal with a social structure, a mass thought form, that's an intriguing question.
It is an intriguing question because everyone has a different definition of what's safe and what's not safe.
And from that perspective, because here's the other aspect of it. there is always the temptation to put one's particular dogma, cause, agenda,
Mm-hmm.
religion in the sense of the church of disappointment or the church of misery or the church of victim or the church, I'm not talking religion in the sense of Judaism, say. Whether you're putting that in front of the God of your being, because in the past, for me, like when I was at architecture school, it was actually really easy for me to say, "Oi, you lot, you do not treat women like that. You do not treat me like that. And if you try one more time, I will smack you into next week." It's kind of a masculine approach,
Yes, that is the masculine. I'll give it right back at you, buddy.
Yeah. Wait, there's somewhere in particular I was going with this. Hang on a second. What was I just saying? But what I was going to say was, for example, I mean, I just really love it to watch, the gay pride events and what have you. I really do. And yet I have known gay people where it has become their religion and they're putting it in front of being fully human.
Yeah.
And that's just as unproductive as okay, I'm going to go into some, what do you call them, caricatures here for a second. That's just as unproductive as your classic white, poor guy, male, redneck.
Right.
Saying, "Oh, these queers, they're just they're taking over. They have this gay agenda." It's like I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, right." The only agenda most gay people I know have is to be treated with respect as a human being.
Right. And to have a decent job.
Yeah.
Safe
Get married, have kids, whatever the heck.
Yeah.
Just like the redneck wants to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The difference is that, structurally speaking, the redneck is in a position to treat the gay person as not fully human.
Right.
In the same way that, and I'm going to bring up the dread word, N-word, in the same way that Nazis decided that Jews were not fully human.
Right.
And gay people too, I may add. There are plenty of homosexuals who died in the concentration camps.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's that whole issue of partitioning segments of the same race that you are a part of into the not fully human camp. I mean, speaking of partition in India, I mean, a couple of million people died because Hindus decided that Muslims were not fully human and Muslims decided Hindus were not fully human. Of course, the British Empire added to this by separating out India and Pakistan, but they were really, really good at deciding certain portions of the human race were not fully human.
Oh, yeah, Britain's famous for that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they do some things better than anybody else. Reign is one of them, and the other is divide and conquer. Yeah. So I think the only thing that anybody can do, I think the most productive thing is for us to keep our eye on being fully human, being in that big soul. That way we glorify ourselves, we glorify the God of our being, but we also then have the opportunity to glorify others. And by glorify means we hold them in the light, truth and light of that higher kind of love and respect.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And then it just doesn't matter what your gender preference is, your sexual preference, or the color of your skin, or any of that nonsense. Because when you're looking at that level, it's like, hey, it's another human being. Woo!
Well, and I think what I would hope people remember is that people are all alike. I mean, there's no difference. They all want the same thing. Yeah. A good job, a nice income, a safe home.
Enough to eat,
and enough to live on.
And if we can also add in someone to love and be
and
loved
someone to
by,
love.
then that is jam on it, as we say in the UK.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the important thing about trust, is that we have to trust that other person is just like us.
And even before that, oh, this is a great segue. Good job. Even before that, we have to trust the self.
Ourself.
The self. You can only love someone to the extent that you love yourself. You can only trust someone to the extent that you trust yourself, and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah. It really is one of those issues of we're rising together or not.
Right.
Not. Yeah. So if you can make that choice to love that big self in you first, that's what opens up the valve. That's what fills up those tanks so that firstly, you're not being needy with the other person because you have an empty tank and you believe that they've got a full one, whereas chances are, in fact, you're both empty.
Yeah. Chances
Or both
are.
half full, as the case may be.
Yeah.
You know, but by having that full tank in and of yourself, just because you are alive, just because you're on the planet,
Right.
that is when you can start mirroring that outward.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, oh, look, here's somebody else who's alive on the planet. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
I bet they're having a really interesting time. You know, even if they are apparently racist and misogynist, I'm sure there's a kernel of goodness in there somewhere.
I'll have to think on that one a bit. And with that even where the cat said, I'm out of here. We're not going to deal with that one. She got up and left. She left the room.
Well, you know, even before I met my Geotran teacher, my first Reiki teacher, and I know I've told you the story before. One of the final things she said when she was training us all says, "Look, totally great to have your dogs and your cats or any kind of pets in the room. The dog will probably curl up under the table that you're using. The cat will probably sit on top of the table. But remember, your cats will criticize your technique."
Yes.
Yeah.
Dogs have masters, cats have staff.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of that every day.
I'm sure you are.
And I got the scratch marks to prove it.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to teach my French friend who speaks pretty good English, and we talk all the time in this curious mixture of English and French because he's always correcting my French. I was trying to explain to him what the expression means, and there's plenty more where that came from. And to this day, I'm not sure he quite got it.
That's a hard idiom to get across. That another language.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and here's what connects up with what we've been saying, is that we are very prone to seeing and placing more significance on the things that we don't like. Yeah?
Right.
As a culture, especially if you're British at all. And French do it brilliantly too. Every French person I've ever met is like super critical. Okay, so we see and we respond to the things that we don't like, or that we don't want, or whatever. But if we can flip that, even for a few minutes at a time, and really put our focus on, wow, I'm just so thankful for this, or it's not that I particularly want to live in the Midwest, but I'm very thankful for my house, and especially for my bathtub. There's a perfectly decent shower in my apartment in Vichy, but I like my baths, so you flip the sheets, and I have my whole batterie de cuisine. Now I'm an ex-chef. So just the fact that I've got 48 matching jars of herbs and spices, they are all labeled, they are in alphabetical order, and they're labeled in French.
Oh my God.
I'm not OCD, not at all.
I know a good hypnotherapist that can help with that.
I'm sure. Yeah. But that's like saying, why isn't there a Chocoholics Anonymous? Because nobody wants to stop.
Yeah.
I got home from 8 weeks away, and naturally I had nothing in the fridge. Well,
Yeah.
I had eggs, butter, and 4 kilos of dark chocolate.
Oh my God.
So I started making chocolate truffles again. You gotta, but if we could see the whole world like that,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there is something, there's a good possibility here. There's something creative going on here. And there's something in that person, no matter how despicable he or she, but normally he looks like from the outside. Present company accepted, of course. There is something there. They're at least trying to be human. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're at least trying to be human. If I can focus on that, that's going to expand. And if I can focus on that in me, that's going to expand. Yeah.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the direction that's going to take all of us to better places, because the more highly we think of ourselves, the more we're going to vibrate at that higher frequency or vibration that's going to attract more people at that frequency or vibration, or even a little higher, which gives us something to stretch towards a little bit. And it gives less breathing room, less oxygen to this stuff that we don't care for. It doesn't work for us.
Yeah. That is so true.
So start by trusting yourself. Be aware of where you're safe and where you're not. Be bigger than the risk, I guess, is what I'm trying to suggest.
Yeah. And if you are having difficulty with that, I am available for private consultation. We both are.
We both are. You can find Dr. Kevin Richardson online, and his website is kevinrichardsontherapy.com. And you can find me on Facebook. I have a couple of Facebook groups, but I'm actually changing over to school. So by the time this gets broadcast, you look for me at www.schoolskool.com/dragon-divas. Yeah, well, I'm stepping out into that dragon energy, let me tell you. And a couple of websites, adeptactivations.com, phoenixactivations.com, and I can always be reached by email at drkiradept@gmail.com. And you also are Kevin Richardson
Therapy at gmail.com.
Gmail.com. Yep. So let's appreciate Gmail while we got it, because I think Google is taking over the world. So who knows? I may change my email address, except I've got everybody trained now.
Yeah. So do I.
And it's the same with my phone number. I've had this phone number since I moved to California in 1999. And now I'm in the Midwest, and I don't want to give it up because it's memorable.
Yeah.
And my phone number in France is even better. So I've had this phone same time. I have a separate iPhone that I only use in France. So I got the SIM card, and the number they gave me just at random is 06. Well, it's 33 for France, 06, which is within France, 89, 50, 1000. How could I possibly give up that number? Give it up. I'm putting it on my business cards. And it's clearly on somebody else's business card, because every so often, like a couple of times per trip that I'm in France, I'll get a phone call, perfectly polite phone call. And for some reason, it's always while I'm waiting for the bus. And they'll say, now, I speak French pretty well, but, they're speaking too quickly for me. We're both on cell phones. It's like, I go, okay. And I say very slowly and distinctly, bonjour, je crois que vous vous trompez. Moi, je m'appelle Kira Dept. Je suis une écrivaine américaine qui est visiteur ici à Vichy pour quelques semaines, et je ne fais pas l'aviculture. So what I'm saying in English is, hello, I think you have mistaken yourself. My name is Kira Dept. I'm an American writer visiting Vichy, and I do not cut trees. Because clearly whoever had this phone number is some sort of arboriculturalist, judging by the phone calls I get.
Oh, and look at our time.
And we're already out of time again.
Time again. Oh my God, this happens so quickly.
It does. Oh, thank you all so much for listening. And we, of course, we will put the replays up. And Dr. Kevin?
Have a good day, folks.
And
learn to trust yourself.
Learn to trust yourself. Because I guarantee you, God's looking after you no matter what.
Yeah.